Good morning, friends. How are you doing today? I am really thankful to be spending some time out here in the garden with you. I want to go ahead and transplant some Japanese anemones, and I also want to divide and transplant some of my bearded iris. I'm choosing to do this because the color scheme really just isn't working here in the main flower walk. Now, I put these Japanese anemones in at the very beginning of the season when they weren't in bloom. And what happened was I got a big shipment of perennials, and I'm not sure what's wrong with me. Is anyone else like this? It makes me so stressed out to have tons of plants and pots at our house. So sometimes I'll just stick everything in the ground, not even thinking too much about where I want them in the end, just to get them out of the pots. And I don't know why I'm like that, but that's what happened with these Japanese anemones. I knew I wanted them because I wanted them for cut flowers. I wasn't sure where I wanted them to live, but now that I see them in bloom, I think they do look nice since we have saving grace on the border, but I think I'm going to really take the main flower walk even more orange and purple next year. So I want to go ahead and remove these Japanese anemones and put them over in the hydrangea room. And the other day I was looking back at the May garden tour because I needed to grab some footage from that time. And I noticed that the orange that I'm really drawn to is this cantaloupe orange. That's the orange that really makes me happy. And I can overlay some footage of the May garden when we have that cantaloupe orange and a nice deep royal purple. And that's kind of that orange purple color scheme that I think I want to go for next year. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take these Fall in Love Sweetly Japanese anemones. I'm pretty sure I have about 12 of them in the main flower walk, and we're going to go ahead and just take them right over here to the hydrangea room. I think I also was thinking that they would blend nicely with Saving Grace, which they do, but once I started to add more and more orange into the main flower walk, it just really didn't work anymore. And I do think that when I stand far away from these Sedona Sunset Coleus, they read as red. To my eye, they are a burnt orange, but they do have a bit of red in them. So my idea for the main flower walk is not to really take it red, but to lean into that cantaloupe orange like we see with David Howard or like the tangerine geums. My color scheme for the hydrangea room is pink, green, and white, and I like to try to maintain that color palette no matter what time of year it is. We do have a little bit of yellow in early spring, but even the tulips in this area are pure white. And we still have some nerines left to bloom in this area, but if we look through here, I believe we have a little area, a little river, where we can put some Japanese anemones. And then on this side, I might have to move some things, but I think we can put another drift right here. So this part of the garden is a part sun location, but it gets afternoon sun, so it's getting pretty hot sun. But I've heard that this particular type of anemone can handle that, so we'll put it to the test. But it is fairly protected from the hydrangeas. I have a crepe myrtle above me right now, an oak, and an apple. So I think they should thrive in this area, and definitely it will be nice to have that color over here, and it will probably look better over in this garden. Now, normally I like to move fall blooming perennials in the spring and spring blooming perennials in the fall to give them some time to root in before they bloom. But it's currently October 2nd. We have an entire week of really cool temperatures. We're in the mid-60s all week, and it's also completely overcast. So I'm just going to dig up these anemones really quickly, move them over quickly, get them watered in, keep them well watered, and they should be totally fine, especially since it's so cool and so overcast this week. I just realized that I'm wearing the exact same color as these Japanese anemones. Now, I don't know the first thing about fashion, as I'm sure you can tell from my videos, but if matching your plants is wrong, then I don't want to be right. So friends, I'd like your advice. What should we stick in these holes for the remainder of the growing season? Should I just divide some things I already have and place them there? I'd really like to get this tangerine orange color right here, but it needs to be something that blooms in the fall and is on the shorter side, maybe no taller than 2 feet. Hey, Grace. So what's new and exciting in your gardens this fall? I love fall. You know, it almost feels to me like fall is the beginning of the growing season, because that's the time when we can really reimagine the garden, move things around, we get to plant bulbs, we get to basically paint that new picture. And I'm just such a visual person. Sometimes I have to move things in bloom to really see whether it's what I want or what I don't want from a garden room. I believe these anemones get 2 by 2 feet tall and wide at maturity, maybe a little bit bigger. And I do plan for this to be their permanent location, so I might even get my measuring tape and measure out 2 feet apart. What you doing, Grace? I'm waiting to go back to the park, Mom. Don't know why we left in the first place. What do you think, Grace? Do you like these anemones? Do you want to come see them? Do you want to see new flowers in here? Come on, do you want to see new flowers? Yeah, this Japanese anemone, you want to see? I think these are going to look so beautiful here, and they will be able to shine in this garden versus over in the main flower walk where they were really just getting smothered. But that's kind of the way that I like to garden. I like to just jam pack everything in there, enjoy the season looking full and lush, and then in fall it's another opportunity to move things around, try new things. And the other great thing is this is all free. We can just move things around, paint a whole other picture without having to spend any additional money. So now let's go ahead and divide some of my bearded iris together. I watched back the May garden tour and I noticed that this bearded iris in particular didn't bloom. Now, if a bearded iris isn't blooming, it's usually either not getting enough sun or is buried too deeply. It also could be too wet and may have rotted out. It actually looks like down here we're getting pretty wet, but I cannot see the top of the rhizome right now, and that's what I want. I want to see the top of the rhizome above the soil surface. So we're going to dig this up, move it, and fix that. What I'm going to do now is just trim off the leaves that have broken, and the rest of the leaves I'm going to trim into a fan, leaving about 1/3 of the foliage that was on the rhizome. I would normally cut this foliage back in the garden before I moved it, but I knew you guys couldn't see me back there, so I wanted to do it together. A lot of the time with bearded iris, it's just easiest to pull them apart. If I were to try to use my shovel or a knife to divide these, I might end up injuring some of the rhizomes. But usually there's a place where they just naturally want to pull apart. So see, just like this, I can break off a rhizome And that looks absolutely perfect. That's exactly what I want to see from a bearded iris division. And then I want to show you my trick for planting these so they don't sink down too low. Thankfully, this was the only iris in my garden that did not bloom this year. I would say I'm being firm but gentle at the same time. Definitely the soil is very wet, very heavy, but you can see how easily they divide from one another. Just pull them right apart. If you purchase a brand new bearded iris, this is often what they'll look like when they come. They might have a little bit less foliage. The foliage might be dried up, but you'll probably just get a rhizome like this with a little bit of root system on it. So I'm very happy with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 from that one division. So let's take these over to the driveway garden and plant them up. You guys know it can get a little bit loud over there in my driveway garden. So let me explain the way I like to plant bearded iris. And this works especially well if you are like me and you live in an area that gets consistent rainfall. Perhaps your soil is always wet, doesn't dry out readily, you have heavy soil. So what you're gonna see me do is dig a hole, but then I'm going to build up a mound of soil within that hole, and then I'm going to take the roots, spread them out, and place the rhizome right on top of that mound, and then fill back in. Now the reason why I do this in my climate in particular, if I just dig a hole, plant the rhizome like I'm supposed to, leaving the top exposed, because I have a lot of compost in my soil, because we get a lot of rain, there can be a lot of sinking. And so maybe what I didn't do to this particular bearded iris is I didn't plant it on a mound. So if you're having trouble with that, if you feel like your bearded irises are constantly sinking and you're not covering them back up with soil, they're just constantly sinking every year deeper and deeper and deeper down into the garden, you might want to try my grandma's mound trick. Make a mound, place it on the mound, and then it really doesn't have anywhere to sink because it's got that mound of soil right under it to keep it in place. Okay, with that being said, let's head over to the other garden. I'm almost just loosening the soil from this area rather than digging a hole. And then I'm gonna go like this, build this mound. Okay, just like that. And then the rhizome can sit on the mound. The roots can flow over it. Cover up the roots. Now this way the roots are nice and secure in the soil. I'll push the mulch back, but I will not mulch over the rhizome itself. And that is how I like to plant them in my very wet and humid environment. Do you know that movie Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen? Well, I think I need to title today's video Confessions of a Middle-Aged Gardening Mom, because I plan to only film for 1 hour this morning so that I would have enough time to cook and clean the house, do all the laundry, catch up on work emails, all that good stuff. But then once I got all the bearded irises divided, I started to move some of the annuals around because I got the feeling that the Sedona Sunset Coleus would look better if it was pushed back a little bit. And you know how things go in the garden. One thing leads into another, and before you know it, it's 7 p.m., everyone's laundry is still dirty, there's no dinner on the table, and you haven't even opened your email. But hey, I did get a lot of annuals moved. So to be honest with you, I'm not even sure if I made it any better. I don't think I made it worse by moving these things, but I don't know if I made it better. And so what I want to do is go somewhere where the gardener uses a lot of orange. So in the next video, let's head over to Chanticleer Garden and get some inspiration, because I know in the teacup garden, he always uses loads of orange. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you sometime over at Chanticleer really soon. Bye, friends.